from around the Beltway to around the world. This is the Daily Drum on 96.3 WHUR. Plus, now every Wednesday on WHUT TV, bringing you the information you need that matters most. Better together. Here's Harold Fisher.
Good evening. This is the Daily Drum for Wednesday, October 11th. Here's what's happening. Things have returned to normal after access to BWI Marshall Airport was shut down today. The main road leading to the airport was closed after law enforcement responded to a suspicious vehicle near the terminal. There were reports of a bomb threat at the airport, and a person has been taken into custody. The FBI, ATF, and Maryland State Fire Marshal responded with local police to the incident. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is heading to Israel in the middle of the country's war with the militant group Hamas. Blinken told reporters today he'll meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other senior Israeli officials when he arrives tomorrow.
We're determined to make sure that Israel gets everything it needs to defend itself, to provide for the security of its people. Already, significant military assistance requested by Israel is on the way. That's on top of everything that we've been doing for years.
Blinken added that he expects the number of Americans killed in the conflict to rise. At least 22 Americans have been killed since the conflict began on Saturday. The House is in recess after Republicans choose Majority Leader Steve Scalise as their party's nominee for Speaker. There's no word on when a floor vote will be held. The Louisiana Republican still must win a majority vote from the full House to win the gavel, and it's not clear if he has the votes right now. Meanwhile, Republican lawmakers say they'll be introducing a resolution to expel Representative George Santos from Congress. The move comes a day after Santos was hit with a new round of federal criminal charges. Prosecutors allege Santos stole people's identities and made charges on his donors' credit cards without authorization, including moving some of the money to his own bank account. Santos is denying the charges. Baltimore Orioles fans are trying to get over a disappointing end to the season. After being one of the best teams during the regular season, the O's ended up being swept by the Texas Rangers in the American League Division Series. Well, you definitely want to be a winner in tonight's historic Powerball jackpot. It's an estimated $1.73 billion. It's the second largest jackpot in U.S. history. Well, here's a look at tonight's weather. High cloudiness, then clearer overnight, lows in the mid-40s to lower 50s. Tomorrow, another grand sunny day, highs in the mid to upper 70s. Well, coming up, the Israel-Hamas war, fighting gun violence at HBCUs, and some of the other top stories of the week. We're at the Reporters Roundtable. Lines are open. Give us a call, 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. Insight is next on WHUR, Sirius XM, and WHUT TV.
On the go and on demand, WHUR and WHUT are with you. Download the WHUR app today to get full access to shows, playlists, and our latest contests. To access WHUT on demand, download the PBS app and make Howard University Television your station. Catch up on our WHUT original productions anytime, anyplace on YouTube at WHUT TV. WHUR and WHUT, better together.
DC, Maryland, and Virginia, you might have noticed something a little different on Monday nights at 8 p.m. I'm Angie Ange, our Director of Content here at WHUT. And Monday nights at 8 p.m., we like to call it Must See DMV. All your favorite shows from all your favorite creators, focused solely on what makes DC, Maryland, and Virginia so special. So set your clock, and we'll catch you at 8 p.m. right here on WHUT, Howard University Television, telling your stories on your station.
Going beyond the headlines to the deeper issues. 96.3 WHUR and HUR Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. This is the Inside segment, where your questions and comments matter. At 202-319-7810. Join the conversation.
Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR, Sirius XM Channel 141, 96.3 HD2, 98.3 FM, and WHUT TV. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. We are back at the Reporters Roundtable with some of the top stories of the week. On deck this week, the Israel-Hamas war, shootings at HBCUs, and the efforts to make them more secure, the slow race for Speaker of the House, Metro Ferry evaders, the Federal Trade Commission proposing to make junk fees more transparent. Students in Prince George's County talk about violence and social media. And, of course, Jada Pinkett Smith revealing she and Will Smith have been separated since 2016. Lots to touch on tonight. My guests are Eva McKend, CNN national politics reporter, and Hamil Harris, reporter for the Washington Informer. If you have a comment or a question, give us a call at 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. You can X me at HFisherWHUR, or you can find me on Instagram at Harold T. Fisher. Eva, Hamil, thank you both for joining the conversation.
It's always good to be here, Carl.
I need to start with you, Eva, and the Israel-Hamas conflict. So many moving pieces today. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on the way to talk to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But can we at least... We need to do a little bit of Middle East 101. Don't want to put you on the spot as an expert per se, but why is this happening?
Well, that is a big question. What I can say is we are now in day 5 of this war. The latest information that we have, so as a result of Hamas engaging in the surprise attack on Israel on Saturday, now there is a full-blown war. Israel has declared war on Hamas and is bombing Gaza. And President Biden, he spoke today with the president of the UAE to discuss the attack. He again condemned the attack as an act of terror of which he has never seen before. He held a roundtable with the Jewish community leaders to outline the administration's efforts. The main thing is sort of crystal clear at this point is that there is no daylight here. President Biden has emphasized that America is a firm ally with Israel and will support Israel's effort in any way that they can. Of course, we don't have a Speaker of the House right now, so more funding can't be passed through Congress, but there are other mechanisms in which America can support Israel, and those are already being pursued.
To your point, talking about no daylight between the United States and Israel, as we all heard, this is what President Biden said from the White House just yesterday.
The United States has Israel's back. We will make sure the Jewish and democratic state of Israel can defend itself today, tomorrow, as we always have.
Hamil, why was that speech by President Biden so significant yesterday?
Because for years, Harold, many people have considered the Democrats somewhat soft in the terms of Israel, and Biden was, number one, reaffirming himself to say that Israel is one of our very strong allies and has been in that region for biblical times and has been outnumbered by its enemies. So Biden wanted to demonstrate the affinity to Israel, but number two, he still is projecting himself as a, quote, strong president because, again, they call him Sleepy Joe and all these other things. So this is all about perception. I'm at Maryland right now. We're teaching students about persuasion and perception. So again, this is important for the president to look presidential in a very serious time where you have American hostages and you have loss of life.
Yeah. Hamil, I want you to drill down a little bit more about this because as horrific as this story is and the stories that and the reports that we have been hearing over the past several days are mind-numbing. They are stomach-turning. They are eye-popping, and I could go on, and very, very difficult to hear. But for Black people in the United States, why should they care about this conflict? Some would argue that this is not our story. This is not Palestine against, for example, Israel. This is Hamas against Israel, for example. And while we have seen protests for decades and decades in this country, where we've had Americans of color even, supporting, Palestinian autonomy in the Middle East, and as well as, supporting Israel and the like. But for your average Black person, I don't think this is on their radar.
Well, I beg to argue with you on this one, Harold, because one of the things is the minister part of my church organization, which is African American, was in Israel, at the Holy Land. For people who are Bible-believing folks with Old Testament roots, then the story of the restoration theologians, Samuel Combs and stuff, have often paralleled the children of Israel and the whole biblical story of Jesus. And so this is something for the Christian community. They do see the ancient Israel of Jerusalem, but also people do question the political aspect in this. And what's interesting is how the Republicans, one of my students handed me a note because my class is listening to this, is that how the Republicans tend to want to weaponize Hamas in this whole struggle to alienate the Republicans and Democrats. Have you noticed the talking points? And so again, yes, indeed, for the faith community, there's an affinity and sometimes confusion between biblical Jerusalem and Israel. I mean, don't forget when they moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Yeah. Jerusalem is just a word that, it means a big deal for the faith community. So it is part of the journey, but it's also soaked in politics. We know that. People often say, well, now you still there? But again, we've seen this going back to Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin. So again, we have dealt with this most of our life. And again, the battle goes back to the Old Testament.
So you think he's right about that, Eva? Is this something that Black Americans are talking about at the kitchen table?
I think so, certainly. And you had the Black Lives Matter group in Chicago very controversially tweet out an image of a paraglider and expressing solidarity with Palestine. And of course, we know that that was used to parachute into that music festival where hundreds of Israeli students were killed. So there is a lot of conversation among Black Americans about this, about where we fit in this struggle. We know that a lot of Black Americans feel solidarity with both groups, with both Israelis and Palestinians, and feel as though there's not enough of a conversation about the occupation that precipitated these attacks. So this is something that is very much, on our radar, I think, and a conversation that you're going to be hearing in barbershops and Black churches in the days ahead.
Interesting. 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. We are at the Reporters Roundtable talking about some of the top stories of the week. If you have a comment or a question, give us a call. I'd like to hear from you. Let me move.
Harold, could I say one more thing?
No, please go right ahead.
Yeah, one thing this is ironically our diversity module here in Maryland, and one of my students is some of my students who are Jewish and been over there, and a lot of them said one of the biggest fears too is that Hamas is not going to stop just in the Middle East, that there could be attacks in the United States, and we've seen that before where Americans are targeted. And so again, this is like reopening Pandora's box that really never was closed. So again, and I have students from the Middle East and both sides, Egypt as well as Israel and other places. And so I just think this is something that's very timely in a bad way.
So let me say this about that. I think for a certain segment of the population, journalists like the three of us in this conversation, black journalists, yes, I think it's not only am I fascinated by this, but I think it's very important. And for news junkies, people who are constantly consuming the 24-hour news cycle, and this is a prime example of this is really the only story on all of the networks right now. And so yes, I do believe that you can't avoid it as a black person in America unless you just turn off the television. But my argument is for your average black person that I am not always convinced that this, even if they find it interesting, that I'm not always sure that they are as concerned as the Jewish population in this country, the Muslim population in this country, the immigrants from that part of the world. That's my argument, Eva.
Well, we're not that far away from being directly involved. We know that Iran is allied with Hamas. It doesn't take much. There could be, further escalation, and then America could stumble itself into a war. So that is why I think foreign policy matters are important for not only Black Americans to monitor closely, but all of us. Being a superpower means that we have our tentacles sort of in everything.
Yes.
And we are Israel's number one ally. And as of right now, there seems to be no appetite for ground troops involvement. So we're going to send money for weapons support, but not actual troops. Although I was just at an event with Senator Scott yesterday at the Hudson Institute. He was giving a foreign policy talk here in Washington, and he was expressing openness to America preparing a special envoy, so military capacity, in order to rescue American hostages in Israel. So that would translate into American troops on the ground. He didn't say that was something he definitely wanted, but he expressed openness to that. So that is a slippery slope in terms of our involvement. Becoming more expensive.
Harold, don't forget, Lord Austin is the African American. He's the Secretary of Defense. When we went to Saudi Arabia during the Persian Gulf War, he had this military police unit from the D.C. National Guard going over there. I had people, were injured, hurt, and you had African Americans to die in the Middle East. So it may be not be for everybody, but if you have a military family, you doggone Skippy, you're focused on it.
Well, and I think to my point, as you know, Ukraine and Russia are in the midst of a horrific conflict, and for all of Americans, even though, and Eva, you know this even better than I, that there was this divide on Capitol Hill about whether or not we should be supporting Ukraine. But it wasn't, as we know, it wasn't that long ago, in World War II, and what Germany was doing, one country at a time. And so I think, I guess my argument is it's not that we shouldn't be. I think we should be, all people and black people. I think they should be paying attention to it, as you said, because of the potential for war and the economic impact. My argument was that I'm just not sure that it is much on the radar as I think it should be.
How about when the gas tanks go up?
Yeah.
Be on people's radar.
Yeah. Let me go to the phone lines real quick. 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. Jay, calling from D.C. Thanks for calling, Jay. What's on your mind? Jay, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, sorry. First, I want to preface this by saying that the attacks by Hamas were just disgusting and abhorrent. But on the topic of why black people should or should not pay attention to this, I have a different perspective. And my perspective is black people should pay attention to this because this is an example of a white international community placing judgment on one brown group of people. This all started back when a couple of Jewish guys decided that Zionism was going to be their way of life and decided that Jews should move back into Palestinian and Ottoman land. And in the 1940s, the white international community said, you know what, guess what? We're going to take this land that used to be brown people's land, and we're going to call it Israel. And since then, it's been a fight back and forth. But those decisions were made by white people amongst white supremacy in a white universe in society. So black people, to me, should pay attention to this because this is white supremacy in application in 2023. Okay. Hamas is going to be the destruction of Palestine because white people here in America cannot see past Zionism. And that is my opinion.
Jay, thank you for your phone call. 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. We're at the Reporters Roundtable talking about some of the top stories of the week. I want to move to this issue that is certainly near and dear to my heart and you know, for a lot of people who attended HBCUs as well as, you know, people who have kids in college. We had a shooting at Morgan State University that you had 5 people shot. 4 of them were students. And now, just today, the president of Morgan State University has asked the state, the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore, for $22 million to essentially build a wall around the university. And it was also, again, last Saturday, Bowie State University. Welcome Morgan State homecoming celebrants there in a wonderful showing of solidarity, and there was a shooting there as well. You know, this is a really, really difficult, you know, topic, Hamil, and I'll start with you. Is that where we are now, right, that we may have to end up building walls around our HBCUs to protect, our students, faculty, and staff?
Well, I think the biggest thing, again, I was at Morgan State the night, the morning after night I led the service and as a teacher as well as a minister, and it is very hard, and many students are still struggling. I had a third of the students that I normally would have in class today. And what's a beautiful thing is that it is the time now where my students at Morgan and my students at Maryland are coming together because just like you may not have a shooting, but you have armed carjackings right here in College Park. And then today in Morgan, students are torn about this open campus versus closed campus. They tore down a wall, they call it the wall of hate, a few years ago when it used to be segregated. And now they want to put up a wall when it's supposed to be an open campus. And so a lot of people are struggling. But at the same time, I've seen too many parents who have come to the school at Morgan and take their children home and not planning to bring them back. So again, safety this is a time of fear, for the students at HBCU. And I thank God for what Dr. Richardson,
Wilson.
I'm talking about at Howard. Because on Sunday, Bernard Richardson had a special service where he took a moment of silence for Bowie State and Morgan State.
But hold on, Hamil, and I appreciate that and the solidarity, but I'm talking about.
You're talking about the wall.
I'm talking about the wall. I'm talking about is this where we are? Hold on. I've got to take a break, and I'll let you finish your point. I'll bring Eva in as well to hear what she has to say. Lines are still open at 202-319-7810. 202-319-7810. We are at the Reporters Roundtable. We're going to take a break, but if you're on the phone, stay with us. The Daily Drum will continue on Sirius XM Channel 141 and WHUT TV. I'm Harold Fisher. John Mons is next with the original Quiet Storm. That's on WHUR. We'll be back in just a few seconds.
On the go and on demand, WHUR and WHUT are with you. Download the WHUR app today to get full access to shows, playlists, and our latest contests. To access WHUT on demand, download the PBS app and make Howard University Television your station. Catch up on our WHUT original productions anytime, anyplace on YouTube at WHUT TV. WHUR and WHUT, better together.
D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, you might have noticed something a little different on Monday nights at 8 p.m. I'm Angie Ange, our Director of Content here at WHUT. And Monday nights at 8 p.m., we like to call it Must See DMV. All your favorite shows from all your favorite creators focus solely on what makes D.C., Maryland, and Virginia so special. So set your clock, and we'll catch you at 8 p.m. right here on WHUT, Howard University Television, telling your stories on your station.
Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM Channel 141 and WHUT TV. I'm Harold Fisher. We're at the Reporters Roundtable with some of the top stories of the week. My guests are Eva McKend, CNN national politics reporter, and Hamil Harris, reporter for the Washington Informer. Lines are open at 202-319-7810, 202-319-7810. You can, of course, X me at HFisherWHUR or find me on Instagram at Harold T. Fisher. We were talking about security at HBCUs, specifically, Hamil, about this request by Morgan State University President Dr. David Wilson for $22 million to build a security wall around the university. Of course, Morgan State, like Howard University, like many HBCUs, Morehouse and Spelman, and they are in urban areas. They are in open campuses, and there's always a concern when you have colleges and universities in open urban areas, not just HBCUs. It's the same at Georgetown. It's the same at George Washington. They're in the city. Go ahead, Hamil.
Again, you know, I've seen a mix of emotions. I had some of my female students who are very frightened. This thing started a week ago because they didn't want to have homecoming. Remember, this was supposed to be homecoming. And homecoming is when people come back to the campus to celebrate. But when you have Sexy Red want to perform, and some of the girls said, we don't want our bodies degraded by people looking at us trying to dance on our campus. So, again, you have a mixture here. And so then we go for mixture of people shooting. And I've had too many students who say, I'm going to go get a gun permit because I'm scared. And they don't say that. And one person told me that they actually were shooting out the 9th floor, you know, at this Thurgood Marshall, of all people, at that dormitory with 600 students. The SWAT team was going down in the hallway. A mother from New Jersey who came in and says, I'm taking my daughter home. So this is real in the name of homecoming. So, again, you don't want to do this, but it's easy to have a debate when you don't go to the campus. I got a group of students here. They just want to go home tonight. They just want to have a decent meal without being threatened, shot, or carjacked at the University of Maryland. So, again, we see a mixture of stuff going on, Harold.
Yeah. Eva, your thoughts about security, specifically protecting our HBCUs.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what Congress's role will be. There is a bipartisan HBCU caucus. We have seen in recent years an appetite from both Republicans and Democrats to champion HBCUs because I think all sides agree it's really good politics. We know that under this administration, more than $7 billion has gone to HBCUs, so there is that commitment there. So I'm wondering if there's going to be any policy response to step up security in the wake of increased bipartisan support. But it's definitely alarming. We know we also had campuses months ago receive terroristic threat or bomb threats, and there was widespread concern about that. And so there might be a conversation that emerges on Capitol Hill about a legislative response.
Yeah, I think you make an excellent point about those, whether they were hollow threats against HBCUs, but whatever they were still, cause for alarm and raising questions about how we need to protect our prized institutions of higher learning. And so I'm very, very interested in seeing what comes of this $22 million request, for Morgan, and, kind of moving forward, because if you look at what the president of Bowie said, she shut down Bowie State University this week to address issues of mental health for student, staff, and faculty. But, underlying all of that is the issue of security. I do want to move to the next topic, and certainly, Eva, this is your wheelhouse. The slow race, that may be an oxymoron. The slow race for Speaker of the House, where the House went into recess today. Steve Scalise was, as you know, picked by the Republicans, as Speaker, or at least the Speaker designee. But he still needs the vote. Needs the vote. Kind of explain what's next. Why didn't they just go in for a vote right now? I mean, now more than ever, the House needs a speaker.
They sure do. Listen, Congressman Scalise enjoyed a majority of support from his conference, so the final vote was 113 to 99. But you need 217 on the House floor, and he doesn't have that. And rather than risk another embarrassing episode where it was over a dozen rounds to elect the former Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, Republicans are still trying to find enough consensus among themselves to advance a House Speaker. Essentially, there are just still some holdouts. Congressman Max Miller of Ohio, Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. They are right now at this hour saying they would not vote for Congressman Scalise. And what we've seen is just on the other side, Democrats not have sort of this rancor in their mix. Of course, it's a lot easier to be in the minority. When you're in the minority, there usually is more consensus because there's not as much at stake as when you're in the majority. But Republicans have just had a really hard time figuring this out, and it has caused great concern because the government will soon need to pass a budget, and they are also confronting multiple international issues. And so this is a key time for there to be somebody in charge. So
I need to ask a question, and maybe this is something I missed, but any speaker would need 217. What happened to 218?
I think it's because they had some absences. So I think 217 is the number that they need now because they have some absences, some people out sick. So 218 is no longer needed.
Okay, and it may seem like a simple thing, but with the 15 rounds for McCarthy,
yes,
it was 218, and then all of a sudden it became 217, and I'm thinking, okay, what happened? And
because it adjusts when there are absences on both sides of the aisle. So if there are members not present to vote, and I think they have calculated 4 potential absences, and then now they're 217 is the needed number.
Yeah. Hamil, when we look at what's happening on Capitol Hill right now, there's been a lot of chaos. There's been a lot of confusion, obviously starting with recently, I should say, the federal government shutdown, then the ousting of McCarthy, and then even the news about George Santos facing more federal charges. All of this just on the Republican side. The Democrats seem to be rock solid in their solidarity. Kind of share your thoughts about what we're seeing right now, and do you believe that this may impact the 2024 election?
But I think, first of all, Harold, the key thing is it's clear this is political grandstanding, be it the Democrats or Republicans. And again, McCarthy was portrayed as a weak leader when he came into Congress. Matt Gaetz, who happens to be my congressman from Florida, doing his thing. But the bottom line is this is a Congress that represents the country. And we have a war situation going on, the support of Israel, the war in the Ukraine, and they're sitting there figuring out who's going to be the head king of the ranch. So again, this is clearly a situation that's politics. And don't think that they will not shut the government down in, 28 days, something like that. So again, this is a spectator sport at the worst time in the country. And plus, you have federal workers. You have universities that have to function like the University of Maryland. These students want to be educated. They need leadership, not clownery and buffoonery. But that's what you get. So again, all we can do is watch this like you're watching a football game. Maybe Deion Sanders should come up here and figure out how to run the
Yes, Deion Sanders, a unifying force. Go figure. That's funny. That's very funny. Real quick, this is another interesting thing that is literally happening today in D.C. government, looking at Metro fare evaders. This issue continues to be problematic. There was a hearing today weighing some policy changes for fare evasion, even though WMATA, the Metro system, has added these gates that are supposed to discourage fare jumping and the like, but certainly this keeps happening. And some of the reporting today, Eva, was that you may start as a fare jumper, but at some point, and particularly if you're a young person, but that may end up, if you don't care about the little laws, eventually you're not going to care about the big laws.
This is an argument that's often made on a whole host of small crimes, but it's often met with pushback. We know in New York City it was called the broken window policy, So we'll have to see where this ends up. Metro said fare evasion happens about 40,000 times every day within the transit system.
I'm really
surprised by that. Yeah, I was quite surprised when I read that. Because, I ride the Metro and I don't see people evading that much. So I was quite surprised by that. But they said that, people aren't really paying these fines or giving their real names. And, I guess maybe as a revenue source, they find that this is something that needs to be pursued.
Certainly the revenue is important. There's no question about that. But I would also argue, Hamil, this is when you talk about the quality of the transportation system, how people view the transportation system, even how you view the District of Columbia and some of its other, wider problems. This is certainly something that I'm sure Randy Clark does not want to see, and it's big enough of a problem where the system has invested money to not only address these gates, to change the gates, but also to reach out to city officials to talk about policies and laws to address this issue. Hamil.
Yeah, I just think the bottom line, we've had the fair jumpers, this metro. Right now, it's like sometimes the right hand don't know what the left hand doing. Right here at the University of Maryland, we have the purple line coming right through the middle of campus, and so you have, this is a multi-million project, but it's tearing up neighborhoods. You got things going all around us. So again, these projects are very important, but no one knows when it stops. When it will stop for a while, then nobody knows when it's going to be finished. These students are trying to get to classes back and forth, and it's like walking through a mountain valley or something. So again, these projects, Metro needs to give a greater account on safety and stuff. I have an amputated part of my foot, and I'm scared every time I get on the train. It's hard. So again, what can we do but just be spectators in this?
Yeah, but Hamil, both you and I were around when Metro officially opened in 1976, and Metro has always had growing pains. The construction has never been an easy issue, and so whether as the system grows, these things are always going to happen.
No, that's for sure. But it just seems that maybe it can't be moved. Maybe it's always going to be a mountain over here, a valley, doors slamming, people jumping off trains. I don't know. But I know it just seems to be, for the money that people put into this system, it needs to be a better job done. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Let me go to the phone lines real quick. 202-319-7810. Sheikah calling from Virginia. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Good afternoon, Mr. Earl. Thank you for taking my call.
Real quick, I got to keep moving. So what's on your mind? Go right ahead, please.
So what's on my mind? I hear the old media, the Western world crying foul play when Abbas hit Israel, but the Israelis have been occupied Palestinian territory. Palestinians have been mistreated. Palestinians have been horrible. Do you see what is happening in Gaza? The Palestinians have no future. And I'm disappointed that President Biden gave a strong remark. He did not even mention the Palestinian people. Are you kidding me? For centuries, these Palestinian people have been under apartheid. They've been destroyed. They've been misplaced. Would you like to be refugee in your own country?
I will, but Sheikah, let me say, when we kind of look back at the more, this has been going on as I think as we've addressed, since 1948, there's a centuries-old history here that I am not qualified to recount. But it seems to me that trying to find peace in this region, there have been so many attempts. The Clinton administration, you remember the Carter administration, and we could
don't forget the British. Don't forget the British administration to the British government who displaced these folks. It's a double standard.
But I would say that I think at some point, and I think this is really a much broader argument. Because I think even under the Obama administration, at one point, paraphrasing here, President Obama says, "You guys got to figure this out," and I don't. And this is going to continue. And as Eva said, earlier, this issue may not end with Hamas and Israel. There could be broader implications here with Iran and other actors in the region, and so this isn't just a small skirmish. This is a horrible This is a horrible situation that, as we said, if you're not paying attention, you should be, no matter what side you're on or no sides. But I think the bottom line is, we all want peace, and there is no easy road down there. But Sheikah, thank you so much. I appreciate your phone call. Let me go now to this other issue, and I think all of us have felt this. Eva, what is going on with these junk fees? The Federal Trade Commission now proposing to make them, more transparent. And you want to talk about sticker shock of every kind, whether you're buying airplane tickets, whether you are sitting in a restaurant. I mean, what on earth, Eva?
They are a real pain in the butt.
And a pain in the wallet.
Yes. President Biden today at the White House said that folks are tired of being taken advantage of and being played for suckers. And so that this is sort of a bipartisan issue. Like, no one likes these junk fees. He was attacked a little bit on his right today. I saw Congressman Byron Donalds. He's a
Republican out of Florida, I believe.
Outspoken black Republican out of Florida. And he was like, why is the president talking about this issue when we've got to rescue American hostages in Israel? But I think we saw the administration here still trying to center domestic policy issues as they also handle the international crises. But yes, so these junk fees, the FTC, the new proposed rule, they would prohibit these fees. They're basically hidden bogus fees that harm consumers. And the agency says that this is something that they want to go after receiving more than 12,000 comments from the public about how annoying these fees are. And this is something the administration wants to pursue.
Well, you remember he mentioned this during his State of the Union address, and now here we are, and no shade to the Florida congressman as to questioning why is he talking about this. We should have been talking about this for years, because I remember the very first time that I encountered one of these fees was a resort fee going down to South Beach in Miami, where you bought your stay at the Ocean Drive Resort or hotel online. You paid everything up front, and then when you got there, they hit you with a resort fee. And I'm thinking to myself, a resort fee for this little place? And so that meant that, and it was only $35, but it was $35 that I didn't know I had to pay, and this was for towels. I said, well, can I just take the towel from the room? No, whether you do that or not, you've got to pay your $35. But now it's a few pennies, it's a few dollars, it's several dollars. It is a resort fee. It may be an entertainment tax. These are the fees, Hamil, for those Beyonce tickets that already cost a whole bunch of money, but then these people need to get paid, and these people need to get paid. And that $500 ticket ends up costing you, after fees, $700 in fees.
But the thing about it, Harold, people do what they want to do. I've heard crazy stories. I'm not going to beat up on that concert, but I've heard people...
You're not going to beat up on Beyonce, okay.
Yeah, because you did it. You paid $500 for Beyonce, and that's... I don't know that.
No, I did not. No, I did not go. I didn't go. I didn't do the Beyonce thing, but please, go ahead.
All I'm saying is that we live in a time where it's consumer-driven. People do what they want to do, and we can't play the moral clock or whatever, but people are doing it. And it's a rough time because the economy is straining a lot of people's budgets. But they're going to do what they want to do. College students going to Beyonce concerts and stuff like that. And what can we do?
Yeah, but I agree, and it's not so much that the fees need to be paid. Eva, I think the thing that is distressing for a lot of consumers is that you don't know what the fees are or when they're coming until you get hit with them. When you are ready to give the vendor, whomever it may be, your credit card number. And I think it's the sticker shock part. And it also does not allow you to make informed comparisons when you're shopping.
That's right. And the FTC, I'm just reading on their site, they say that the rule will save consumers more than 50 million hours per year of wasted time spent searching for the total price in live ticketing and short-term lodging alone. So, and then they say the time savings is equivalent to more than $10 billion over the next decade. It is a hassle. It's annoying. It's prohibitive. And it's something that consumers shouldn't have to deal with.
Yeah. Let me go back to the phone lines, 202-319-7810. Kevin calling from Maryland. Thanks for calling, Kevin. What's on your mind?
Hi. I have my question is about the Metro fare jumping. Now, I have a little money, but I can't afford Metro. I'm retired. So what are these kids supposed to do that I see jumping the turnstile? Are they just not supposed to ride Metro? And I think there's an assumption that if they had money, they'd jump the turnstile. And I know I'm generalizing, but it's kind of, this shouldn't even be an issue. Like I heard some earlier, maybe it was you or somebody said that all the money that we spend on Metro, we still can't get an elevator to work. Or an escalator to work. But my question is kind of not rhetorical. What are these kids supposed to do?
Well, it's interesting you should say that, and Hamil, you may be able to articulate this a little bit better than I, but you remember there was the great big discussion about free bus service in the District of Columbia, for example, and funding that for, not for kids, for everybody. Okay.
But the reality is most bus service with young people in the district is free. And for them to be a jumper, sometimes they just want to be bad because they're being bad. But again, if you're in the District of Columbia, you're a high school student, or in Prince George's County, you ride the bus, you ride the Metro for free. But people are still jumping, and that's very dangerous.
I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. I'm not, because I know. You don't buy it, don't make it. Because I don't jump the turnstiles, and I don't jump, but I also can't afford it. As a retired Navy and Army veteran, I can't afford DC Metro.
But I think, I think these are two separate issues within the same bucket. Yes, the cost of Metro is now and has been for the past several years a bone of contention. And going all the way back, what we do know is that the care and maintenance of Metro, even in its earlier, not earliest, but earlier years, went wanting. And now, not only this current Metro general manager, but the one previously has been plagued with trying to figure out how to make repairs that should have been done years and years and years ago. And that is part of it. And I think the other thing is, Kevin, is that Metro, its funding is a conglomerate of, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, federal money, and all of that. And so I think the whole funding question about Metro and passing it on to riders is going to continue to be a very, very difficult thing. But and then, of course, again, the fare jumping, particularly as it relates to young people, as I said earlier, is a bigger conversation about crime in this city and quality of life crimes. But Kevin, I'm going to have to let you go. Thank you very, very much. Real quick, I wanted to make sure I got to this because this was a really important piece. Yesterday at Flowers High School, Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks, County State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy met with young people from across the country across the county to ask about violence. And this is what Aisha Braveboy said yesterday, which was a very, very fascinating response after this meeting.
One of the things they said is that you can kind of develop your own persona on social media, and that's why guns become so important for these young people who want to act like tough guys or girls. And so having that gun, being on social media with those weapons, gives off a persona that they want to, show the world.
Eva, she was just saying that the social media has the kids are saying that social media is responsible as a foundation for why we're seeing this violence among young people. Your thoughts about her comment?
Yeah, I think it's a real issue, and I think that's why we've seen so many parents get more aggressive with trying to monitor and limit and raise the age in which they expose their children to social media. We heard these young people talk about depression, isolation, lingering effects of the pandemic, and it's a real widespread concern.
Yeah. And, Hamil, I guess, again, being a person of a certain age, our minds have developed to a point where the impact of social media on older adults may not be as severe as it is on these young people. When we were kids, what did we have? We had telephones, we had television, that was kind of it. And now they have so much information coming at them and a way to connect even improperly with each other, which may be one of the causal effects of the kind of violence that we're seeing in the streets.
But Harold, we seem to always blame everybody but ourselves. I got a group of students right now, and they're talking about diversity, and no one's in here, but yet they know how to get along and talk and think about mental health. We have forums and we talk about everything, but nothing ever changes. I mean, when can we talk with people in smaller groups instead of do the blame game? I got a 16-year-old son, and he has more weapons, fake guns and stuff, and I've tried my best to work with him.
Okay, but hold on, Hamil, real quick, and I'm running out of time. But you said you've got students. You're talking about college students. We're talking about we're talking about middle schoolers, where they also said that lack of family support is also an issue.
I'm at a D.C. charter school. I'm not going to mention. I've had 4 people get shot and killed in the same school in the last few years. How about that?
But hold on, Hamil, hold on. What I'm saying is they pointed to social media, but they were also saying poor parenting and lack of family support as a contributing factor. So I'm going to have to let that be the last word. Eva McKend, Hamil Harris, thank you so much. I really appreciate your insight, and certainly we'll be talking again. That is the Daily Drum for this Wednesday, October 11th. I'm Harold Fisher. Good night.
This program was produced by WHUT and made possible by contributions from viewers like you. For more information on this program or any other program, please visit our website at WHUT.org. Thank you.